Hey, how's it going, guys? And welcome. I was wondering if you had some time to talk about our sexy Lord and Savior, Sire, Daddy Denathrius, with his huge, bulging... I'm just kidding. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the new FlexiSpot Sit-to-Go desk bike. With its quick release, easily height-adjustable seat, so whether you're taller like me or really short, you've got both options. It's got a resistance meter that, for me, always stays to the left because I'm a little bitch. It also has a nice display that can give you information on things like speed, distance, and calories burned, approximately, of course. FlexiSpot has made a really nice upgrade from the last bike that they sent me, which had really rigid, spiky pedals. The new one actually is really nice. It's got nice, flat, grippy pedals, really smooth, much nicer to use, much more comfortable. It has pretty durable plastic and steel casters down at the bottom that so far haven't torn up my floor, so that's good as well. You can find the link to this down in the description below, where you can support me, my channel, and of course, the awesome products over at FlexiSpot. Go buy one, please, guys. I needed to clone all my characters in TBC Classic. Please.
Hey, what's going on, YouTube? It's Pyromancer here. Welcome back to another video. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, or evening. Oh, depending on what time it is. Wherever you are in the world. Champion! Today we're talking about Elune. We got to heal her wounds. Her wounds, champion. Azeroth needs you, champion.
Welcome back, guys. I missed you. Today, we're going to be focusing more on the night. Not the morning, the day, the afternoon. We're looking at the nighttime. Because today we're talking about Elune. And I know a lot of you have wanted to hear about this since things came to light, so to speak, about Elune and the Winter Queen. And if you're not familiar, spoiler alert. If you don't want to be spoiled, this is not the place to be right now. So, without any further ado, it turns out that Elune is in fact the Winter Queen's sister. Now, many people are surprised about this. Many people are not. There were two sides to this. There are many people that are surprised because to all knowledge that has ever been provided to us regarding Ysera, especially that which is retrieved from the Chronicle books, lets us know that Ysera was given her power from Aenar. The reason why that is important is because when, in the Shadowlands, the Winter Queen comes upon Ysera, she says, "That is of my sister. Why have you brought it to me?" And so many of us who went, oh my gosh, Ysera came from Aenar. Aenar has this like summer theme. It's the Emerald Dream. It's more about growth and expansion. And the Winter Queen is more about death and the decay and that withering of life. That is why the logic made sense, right? They seemed to be related, summer and winter. They seemed, Ysera came from Aenar. It makes sense to me. Plus, we have the Echo of Aenar Legendary, which is literally present in Ardenweald. So why would we not draw these parallels? Well, on the other hand, there's many people that weren't as surprised because while not going off of that evidence, they tied things like when we're delivering Ysera's wild seed to the great tree, essentially, in the heart of the forest, the Night Song is playing. So there's this connection with Elune that's happening there. And so some people are surprised, some people aren't. Regardless of that, there's two things that are happening here. If what we're being told is true, and Elune is the Winter Queen's sister, which from this new data mine dialogue, this new quest text from 9.1, we're learning is the case. Essentially, we have this Tear of Elune. It's brought to the Winter Queen. The Winter Queen essentially goes, whoa, my sister hasn't abandoned me. This is great news, basically, paraphrasing. She's excited. She's happy to find that her sister hasn't abandoned her. So there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this. I was initially very upset because, frankly, I wanted Aenar to be the Winter Queen's sister. And there is always the possibility that the three of them are sisters, but I wanted to imagine that Elune was something more. That I wanted to imagine that Elune was their mother. And that Elune came from the first ones, and Elune was a representation of nature, and Aenar and the Winter Queen were her daughters, one for the life in its waxing stage, one for the life in its waning stage, right? That made a lot of sense to me. And from a hierarchical standpoint, it seemed interesting. It seemed fun. And so that's why I was upset. There are other people that are upset because they don't want Elune to be just like another Pantheon of Death member who's just like, oh, it's the same kind of power level as Elune. People want that to be separate, right? They want that to feel special. And I can't blame them for feeling that way. That makes total sense. And so the line of logic that others are following, Bellular, for instance, I just watched one of his Bellular Clips videos talking about Elune, where he actually mentions me and my standpoint on it. And Bellular agreed with me that initially it seemed like the Winter Queen's sister would have been Aenar. Logically, that makes sense. So what a lot of people are going to now, like Bellular, he's saying, well, maybe the Elune made a choice to not be part of that anymore. Maybe Elune took it upon herself to say no to whatever systems or structures were implemented upon the Shadowlands, right? It's becoming more of a choice from Elune. And as Bellular mentioned in his video, there's a couple important points that have to be recognized about Elune. She definitely symbolizes the arcane, as those who draw upon her magic like boomkins literally harness arcane powers in their moon and sun magic, okay? She is this light, but not like holy light like what you'd see from a Naru. She's like her own, it's like her own kind of light, this like holy light of Elune. And then she's also shadow, in that she is, you know, the night warrior, and you have this connection with vengeance and death in that regard. And then you can also see her as like life, right? I mean, now that we are being told that Ysera as this person's pet is the descendant of Elune based on the connections that are being made, then that means that Ysera comes from Elune, and potentially the entirety of the Emerald Dream comes from Elune as well. Ysera literally being the guardian of the Emerald Dream. And historically, again, we've always thought the Emerald Dream was something tied to Aenar and life, and maybe to Azeroth, considering there's this conscientious connection there, apparently. But this kind of like throws a wrench into that whole idea. And so people are now thinking, what if Elune decided to go and join the Titans? Because Elune is this traveling celestial body, this moon that grants this power to the people which she oversees. We know that Elune, based on things that have come out of Shadowlands, we know that Elune is not specific to Azeroth. In fact, I would go as far as to say I would be willing to bet almost anything that Elune was also present on Draenor. Even when you just look at the cosmic structure of the moons in the sky, you have what's referred to as the Pale Lady, the White Lady on Azeroth, the Pale Lady on Draenor, the Blue Child on Azeroth, and I forget what it's called on Draenor if it is named. It's a smaller secondary moon. I think that there's a connection happening here. I think that the Titans have been traveling with Elune for a long time. Now, the line of logic, again, that's coming of this is that Elune made a choice. I want to challenge that a little bit, though, because you guys know how I feel about the Titans. And considering we're talking about Aenar here, you know how I feel about Aenar. And if you don't, I got some videos for you guys to watch. But essentially, I don't trust Aenar, especially now. Especially now that it's been revealed to us that the perspectives written in Chronicle do not match the factual information that we're being given. This means one of two things. Either it is a hard retcon. They literally hard retconned that Ysera came from Aenar, and they hard retconned some of the stuff that had to do with the dream potentially. Or more context is being provided that's giving us a clearer view of what's actually been happening the entire time. That is more likely what Blizzard's going to go with. Steve Denuser has said literally on the stage at BlizzCon that there were things that happened in Chronicle, the events that happened in the behind scenes of Chronicle that we're going to have illustrated and explored within Shadowlands, especially going forward into 9.1 and beyond. I want to propose the idea that because of how the Titans tend to operate, this was not a choice that was made by Elune. If this is true, and Elune decided to go, or was taken rather, in this journey, I'm kind of willing to bet that it was not a choice. Or at least potentially was initially a choice and then became something that was not a choice. Because the Titans are infamous for building one specific type of thing, and I'll save you some time, it's prisons. That's what they do, right? For the old gods, for the elementals, for the demons. Anything they don't like either gets evaporated with re-origination or it goes into prison. So with that being said, I think that it's entirely possible that if Elune has been traveling with the Titans, that she was there probably not by choice. It just so happens that Elune taught the Night Elves words that had to do, like Titan words like Kalimdor, like the land of eternal starlight. She literally, allegedly taught them these words, these titanic words. Okay, so she has a connection with them. It also just so happens that Aenar, hiding on her pretty little seat in Elunaria, from the surface of this place, you can see Elune floating in the sky. I pointed this out like 3 or 4 years ago. We've been talking about how Aenar has this weird connection with Elune. And I've even thrown out the idea that Aenar is facading as Elune, that it's a facade, it's a mask that has yet to be pulled off and revealed to us, that Aenar really is the one behind Elune. And I'm not going to entirely rule that out, and you're gonna understand, hopefully, in a minute or two, why I feel that way. Xalatath says, this is an important point, that she refers to Elune as an upstart goddess, as though Elune did not used to be considered a goddess. And as Bellular keenly and astutely points out in the video that I watched, the Winter Queen doesn't act that way. The Winter Queen isn't treated as though she's a goddess. She's not referred to as a goddess. She is not worshipped in the same way that a goddess is, right? She's extremely revered and respected like a queen to her people, but she's not a goddess, right? Xalatath alludes that her sister, Elune, has become one. She's an upstart, a new goddess. Here's the thing. We know, based on the dialogue surrounding Ysera's wild seed in Ardenweald, we know that Elune initially, or the Winter Queen initially had a general distaste for her sister. She has hidden dialogue that says that her sister is vexing. The way that she speaks about Ysera and it being her sister's pet, why have you brought it to me? Why should I save this thing? It's clear that she has a distaste for her sister. But then when the Tear of Elune is brought to her in 9.1, her response is very important. This really contextualizes, for me, the situation at hand. She says, and I'm paraphrasing, but she says, my sister has not abandoned me. That's the most important thing. The Winter Queen felt abandoned by her sister, as though they were like Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret. And Margaret found her place at her sister's side. And it turns out that Elizabeth, first to marry older, assumed the crown when her father, I think it was King George V, died. So Margaret felt a certain type of way about this. She felt like she didn't really have a place because her sister had ascended to become not just her sister, but her queen. And it gives this strange dynamic between them that was hard for Margaret to handle. And I relate this to a real life situation with Elizabeth and Margaret because I think that it could be very well applied to the Winter Queen and Elune. If Elune became something more, she ascended. She maybe kind of left her sister behind, and her sister felt disconnected and felt as though she had been abandoned. And Elune, in this case, the Tear of Elune, is showing the Winter Queen that that's not the case. But I want to pose an idea to you because this is where Bellular and I will probably go in different directions. Where Bellular says she made a choice to join the Titans potentially. I'm here to propose the idea that she didn't. Because there's two ways you can make a sister or anyone feel abandoned. You can make the decision to leave them, or they could preemptively be fearing for that situation to happen, for you to leave them. What if something happened to you that wasn't your fault and you disappeared? That can still leave the other party with a sense and a feeling of abandonment. Like you did something and you became more and they just kind of were left in your shadow. And in this case, maybe the Winter Queen didn't even know what happened to Elune. Maybe Elune vanished. And maybe it wasn't her choice. Yes, what I'm proposing to you is the consideration. We must consider the possibility that the Titans forcibly took Elune and made her a tool of their own use and twisted her power and her presence which I think is very much aligned with spirit and life, of course, and used it as a means to accomplish their goals in ways that they were not supposed to be able to. What in the fuck am I talking about, though? What? That probably lost like half the people watching, so bear with me here. I think that the Titans have rules and they have laws. And while many people perceive the Titans as beings of order, I think that they're also equally beings of law. And I think that rather than having an objective perception of what order is, they have their own subjective opinion on what order is, and they go around and they enforce the law that upholds the order, right? They go around and they set the rules. You know what I mean? They go around and they dictate how these things are structured. And law and order go together. Dun dun, right? I think that it's possible that Aeonar specifically, being hidden on Elunaria, and her lack of a pillar of creation, but instead the Tear of Elune being the pillar of creation that kind of exists in the place of where you would assume Aeonar would have her pillar of creation. Think back to this. Legion, the Aegis of Agrimar, the Eye of Aman'Thul, presumably the Discs of Norgannon, but we don't know that, right? The Hammer of Khazgoroth, right? These are very important relics. There are a couple Titans who didn't have one. Obviously, Azeroth didn't have one. Argus didn't have one, obviously. Sargeras didn't have one. But of all the Titans that we know to be a part of the Pantheon, Aeonar didn't have a pillar of creation. And neither did Norgannon. But at least with Norgannon, we have something we can attempt to identify as a pillar of creation. That being the Discs of Norgannon. But we don't have anything for Aeonar. So it's very strange to me that Aeonar is present on a world called Elunaria, which when translated through Latin could potentially mean Elune Light or Elune Song. Can see Elune from the sky. Aeonar has no pillar of creation present on Azeroth, but the Tear of Elune is present. We've been told that Ysera comes from Aeonar, which is apparently not true. I always thought it was weird that Aeonar had two dragon aspects, Ysera and Alexstrasza the Lifebinder. Always thought that was weird. Why was she special? So I want to propose the idea that Aeonar potentially stole Elune, potentially convinced her and then imprisoned her, potentially facades behind her and uses her as a means by which she can intervene on Azeroth. The Titans had a code of temperance that they bound themselves to for all civilizations, all mortal civilizations, even that of the unruly elemental spirits. They had rules where they were not allowed to directly intervene upon planets because they were fully aware of their incredible power. They knew it. Agrimar this is the reason why Agrimar said, we need to make Titanforge to fight the old gods. We can't reach down and rip them up, which is what Aman'Thul did when he got mad that the Titanforged weren't succeeding. Agrimar is fully aware that they cannot directly intervene. It causes irreparable damage. They have rules like they must protect life whenever possible, right? They are not allowed to commit systemic extinction, right? They are not allowed to directly intervene upon worlds. Those are rules. Those are laws of the Titans. They're written in Chronicle. And when you think about it, think about Sargeras. Sargeras, we have never seen physical, tangible, ineffable proof that Sargeras has actually directly intervened on a planet, with the two exceptions of when he apparently broke that world in two, way back when, and when he directly intervened upon Azeroth. He uses the avatar of Sargeras. He inhabits people. He possesses people. He sends the demonic burning legion upon worlds to scour them. And the funny thing is that by using all of these sub-levels of power, Sargeras could actually be following the rules by not directly intervening, at least up until what he did on Azeroth. And when that happened, he was immediately taken to the seat of the Pantheon and jailed. So if that says anything about breaking rules, there is that. What I'm getting at is, I think that the reason why the Burning Legion works in the way that they do, the reason why Sargeras does not generally directly intervene, the reason why they try to assimilate races into the Burning Legion, it is seemingly almost always an option for you to join them. And if you refuse, I think that it's possible that Sargeras can look at that and go, well, we gave you the option. We tried to protect life. Life didn't want to cooperate. And so for the greater good of life and to protect life in the long run, that's what we're gonna incinerate it. It's either gonna join us or it's gonna be used as fuel. And I think that Aeonar and the other Titans have to operate in a similar way, with Titanforged, with Keepers, with other agents of their will, mortal or immortal. And I think that Elune could quite literally be Aeonar's trump card for direct intervention, and that allows her to basically kind of break their own rules without actually doing it. She could be used as a tool, as a pawn. And this could be the reason why Elune cries. Why her symbol is the Tear of Elune. Why does she cry? Even though we had this relationship drawn between her and the Winter Queen, there's still plenty of mystery surrounding Elune. And Elune could still be of a greater power level than the Winter Queen. But I make this video today because I want to propose to you the two main ideas. That the Titans potentially took her against her will. And the possibility that the Winter Queen feels as though her sister abandoned her because she didn't know what happened. Her sister was just gone, disappeared. And we always have to consider the possibility, of course, that Bellular touched on, that she did actively make the choice. It could entirely be of Elune's will to carry out this mission, right? She could have been convinced by the Titans that it was the noble thing to do. Who knows? But just based on my knowledge of the Titans and what I've seen them do historically, I do not trust them. We don't have a reason to trust them. I would not put it past them to imprison someone like Elune and use her as a tool to get what they want. I mean, when you think about early Kalimdor and the Night Elves, Elune's presence was instrumental in guiding them to become the greatest civilization on the entire planet. Like, if something didn't happen to the Night Elves, they would have eventually ended up like the Draenei, if you ask me. Interdimensional traveling, they're studying space and the worlds around us. They would like, that progression is probably what the Titans would have wanted, because the Titans, and Sargeras especially, loved watching these civilizations ascend to greatness. So that's my perspective on this. The way that the Naru tie-in could be really fucked up. Like, Aeonar could have literally used Elune's power to create the Naru, right? The Titans could have used that power to make the Naru, and thus Khadgar has this interpretation that the Naru are direct creations of Elune, but that could be wrong. It could be that she was merely a tool, a means to make it happen. So that's my perspective on the Elune thing. Is it upsetting? A little bit. Like, would I prefer that it's Aeonar? Yes, probably. But I like the possibility that there's some additional nuanced manipulation going on behind the scenes. So I think that that's more interesting. Instead of being upset and just throwing a fit about this Elune thing, I think that you just have to take it and run with it. So that's where my head is going. Something happened to Elune that may not have even been her fault, that made her sister feel as though she was abandoned. She ascended to become something more powerful, but power always has a cost. So with that being said, you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I had fun recording it live here on twitch.tv/Pyromancer. If you guys enjoyed, hit that fucking like button. Leave a comment down below if you have any input or suggestions or want to just give your perspective. If you guys don't know, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Pyromancer, where you can go and throw a couple dollars my way if you want. Support me and my channel. Get us better, more awesome equipment that we can use here on the channel to produce better content for you guys. Thank you so much over on Patreon. You guys are amazing. And then twitter.com/pyromancersarg. You guys can find a link to that down in the description below. I'd appreciate it if you follow me. As Bellular said in the video that I watched, I tweet from the heart, man. I'm passionate, and I care a lot about this game. That's why I'm so into it. That's why I get so riled up, and that's why I get the way that I get, because it's fun for me, and it matters a lot to me, and I do care a lot about it. So I hope that they do this justice. I hope that this comes out in a way that makes sense and fits canonically in the lore. I hope that we get more stuff that says that the Titans are bad. You know, I want that so badly, dude. I think that they could do so much with the story and not even have to introduce a bunch of new characters in order to make that happen. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay awesome, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.